Wake up in the grind, clock ticking, 20 minutes flat, freedom main-handed, knives built where the real ones at.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the 20-Minute Freedom Project. I am your host, Josh Lopez. This show is for those who want ownership, discipline, freedom, and to build a life that they've always wanted, one that is earned and not handed to them. If you've been following along, there's been a week where I haven't posted any episodes. And you might be wondering what the heck's going on. The plain and simple version of it is that we bought a business and got it off the ground and had a launch week. It's been crazy, a little bit of sleep, tons of work, but it's worth it in the end. And with all that going on, I didn't have any time to record, but I'm trying to make up for it now. Today's episode is called The Anti-Victim Playbook. And I want to start this conversation off before we get into any of the content. I'm not coming at you from a pedestal. I've caught myself in victim mode plenty of times. Not the kind where you're blaming everyone out loud and playing the martyr. The kind where you're telling yourself a story that things aren't moving and the story sounds completely reasonable, but the result is the same. Nothing truly changes. So this isn't me talking down to you. This is me handing you something that I've used myself. A real switch you can flip. So with that in mind, let's get into it. This is the thing about victim mode that makes it so hard to catch. It doesn't show up always like a villain. It doesn't always announce itself when it's present. It doesn't walk in and say, "Hey, I'm here to keep you stuck." It shows up sounding like, "Yeah, but you don't understand my situation. It's just a bad season right now. I would if I had more time. I'll start when things calm down." And every single one of those lines sounds reasonable and is just a trap to hold you stuck. Because victim mode isn't built on lies. It's built on half-truths that protect you from the full truth. Here's what victim mode actually is. It's when you focus on what's happening to you instead of what's going on because of it. And the reason it's so addictive, the reason so many people keep going back to it, is because it protects the ego. If the problem is outside of you, if it's the circumstances, the timing, maybe it's someone else, then you don't have to face the painful truth and reality that change requires something from you and not from somebody else. Victim mode is basically a permission slip. It says, it's not your fault, so it's not my job. And that's how capable, intelligent people end up stuck. Not because they can't. Because victim mode convinces them that they shouldn't have to in the first place. I want to give you 4 signals to listen for. In yourself, in your self-talk, in your excuses. Because once you see these, it's really hard to stop seeing them. The first signal is the "yeah, but." This one is a dead giveaway. Yeah, but I'm too busy. Yeah, but my spouse doesn't support it. Yeah, but I don't have the money right now. Yeah, but my past. Yeah, but my circumstances. The "yeah, but" isn't always factually wrong. Sometimes those things are really real, especially to you. But the "yeah, but" isn't used to add context. It's being used as a brake. It's like the parking brake, trying to go fast in a car, but you still have the parking brake on. Every time you "yeah, but," you're choosing the story over the solution. Signal 2 is blame scanning. This is when something goes wrong and the first instinct is look around for who's responsible for it. The economy, the market, the kids, the boss, your genetics. your upbringing, the timing. Maybe some of those things might have played a role. I'm not telling you your circumstances don't matter. But here's the distinction that changes so much. Scanning for blame and scanning for solutions use the same mental energy, and they produce completely different outcomes. One keeps you stuck, one moves you. You only get to pick one. Signal 3, waiting energy. I'll start when things calm down. I'll go all in when I feel more ready. I'll commit when I have more money or more clarity. This is victim mode wearing planning clothes. And it's sneaky because it feels responsible, like you're being smart about it. Waiting energy is not a strategy. It's sedation. Signal 4, emotional outsourcing. This is when your internal state becomes completely dependent on external conditions. Someone made you feel special. Someone made you feel important. Something didn't go right unless someone else validated it for you. Like you have a good day, you're locked in, and then you have a bad day and everything goes to shit. Someone encourages you, you move. Someone doubts you, you stall. That's not strength. That is being controlled by external circumstances and people. And those who can only perform when life is cooperating are those who build nothing that lasts. Life does not cooperate consistently. There will be times that will kick you down and you'll have to figure it out. And there's other times that everything seems to click and everything works perfectly. But those times are so rare that when you actually find them and you experience them, they're a blessing. All right. This is the part I want you to actually use. Not just listen to, but actually use. This is a 3-step flip you can run in under 60 seconds. The moment you catch yourself in one of those signals. Step 1 is you're going to name it. Say it out loud or write it down. Better yet, do both. I am in victim mode, not I am a victim. There's a big difference between those two. I am in victim mode is temporary. I am a victim is permanent. You have to make the distinction because you are just in victim mode right now. That is completely different than I am a victim. Because if you don't want to be a victim all the time and you want to actually you want to build a life that matters, you have to separate your identity from that moment. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not doomed. You're just drifting in this moment. And naming it breaks the spell. It's the difference between being caught in a current and suddenly realizing that you can swim. There's a video of a screaming kid in a pool. And he doesn't realize it, that he is in such shallow water he could stand up until his parent comes by and pushes his legs down. And he stops crying. It's the same idea. You were always capable. You just forgot for a moment and needed a realization that you could. Step 2, take back the wheel. This is where you sort your situation into 3 buckets: control, influence, and concern. And I want you to actually do this. Not just hear about it, but you need to apply it. Control is when you own it completely. How you show up today, what you put in your body, what you work on, what you are doing, what you say yes to, and what you say no to. Influence is what you can affect by not fully owning, like conversations you can initiate, boundaries you can set, the leadership you bring to your home or your team, the energy you bring to your relationships, Concern is everything else: the market, and the economy, other people's reactions, the past, the timing, whether the world is fair. And here's the move: if it lives in concern, you acknowledge it and move the hell on. You don't ignore it. You don't pretend it doesn't exist. But you don't give it your energy, because energy spent on what you cannot control is energy stolen from you that you could be using in a more productive manner. And if most people were truly honest, they would be living their lives almost entirely in the concern bucket, stressed about things outside their control, paralyzed by things they cannot change, wondering why they feel powerless. The answer is always the same: you can't feel powerful operating from the concern bucket. Power lives in control and influence. That's where you go. Step 3 is choose the next right action. You're not concerned about the whole plan, not fixing everything, not a complete life overhaul. Just this: what is the one thing I can do in the next 10 minutes that moves me forward? And here's where the 5 areas comes in, because the next right action looks different depending on where you're stuck. In your body, it might be doing the first set, walking for 20 minutes, drinking a gallon of water instead of reaching for food by chance. In your faith, it might be 5 minutes of prayer right now, opening the word before you open your phone and the world gets a hold of you. In your being, it might be closing the social media and opening a book, writing one honest page in a journal, doing the inner work instead of consuming more content about it. In your bond, it might be sending a text of appreciation your partner or a friend could really use right now. Or maybe it's a text that you've been overthinking, sitting down with your partner tonight, phones off and being present, having the conversation with your kids you've been softening. In your build, maybe it might be making the call, sending the offer, writing the content, starting that business, doing 100 minutes before the day gets too loud. One action, 10 minutes. That's it. And here's why it works. Victim mode can't survive action. It just can't. Action creates evidence. Evidence creates creation. Confidence creates momentum. And also, when you get moving, you change your state. And when you change your state, everything else changes. Because the momentum that it creates is the one thing victim mode has no answer for. I want to take you somewhere where most of these episodes end up going, because the hard truth underneath all of this is, I think, worth sitting with. And it's not the "no one is coming to save you" truth, even though that is true. You've heard that. This is something a little bit different. Victim mode doesn't just cost you results. It costs you respect. You own respect for yourself. And that's the part that nobody talks about, because there's so many times that what I have noticed, that someone can be living in victim mode for years and appear completely fine from the outside. They can try to hide it. They brush it off like it's nothing. They'll still show up. They're still talking the talk, still posting the content, still going through the motions. But on the inside, they are slowly losing respect for themselves, because they know the gap between what they say and what they do. They know the difference between the person that is present and the person that they actually are at 11 p.m. when the performance is over and it's just them. And that gap, that private, unspoken gap, is one of the heaviest things that someone can carry through their life. It can show up as irritability, as defensiveness when someone speaks truth to them. It can be getting triggered by something that someone said, even though that's not what they meant when they said it. But because you took it a certain way, that you became offended because you made that choice, and that's not what they meant at all. They often explain themselves constantly. That low-grade restlessness that never quite goes away, no matter how busy they seem to stay. That's not a circumstance problem. That's a self-respect problem. And your self-respect cannot be borrowed. You can't get it from validation. You can't get it from a success story. You can't get it from a highlight reel. Self-respect is built in private. In the moments that no one is watching, and you do the hard thing anyway. In the moments when victim mode shows up with its permission slip, and you hand it back. That's where it comes from. And here's the thing about someone who has genuine self-respect. Victim mode loses its power over them, not because their life is perfect, not because their circumstances are easier, but because they know who they are. They have built the evidence. They have done the private work. And those who know who they are don't need victim mode's protection anymore, because they're not afraid of the truth. They are the one living it. Your challenge for this week is simple. You're going to pull out your notepad or your notes app on your phone, and every time you catch yourself running the 4 signals, the yeah, but, the blame scan, the waiting energy, the emotional outsourcing, you're going to do one of these 3 things. Say out loud, you're in victim mode. Write one sentence, and that sentence is, what can I control right now? Take 1 10-minute action immediately. That's the whole challenge. And I want to tell you what this does over 7 days. Because it's not just about changing behavior. It's the private conversation. The one you have with yourself. 7 days of catching it, naming it, and choosing differently. And the story starts to shift. Not because of your circumstances have changed in any way. Because you did. And the person who changes the private conversations that they are having, over time, everything changes. Let me leave you with this. Victim mode feels safe because it protects your ego in the short term. But what it costs you in the long term is something no circumstance ever could. It costs you the private respect of the one person whose opinion of you that actually matters and determines everything. And that is yours. So today, catch the signal, name it, take back the wheel, and take the next right action. Not because everything is lined up. Not because it's the perfect moment. Because you are the kind of person who doesn't need victim mode's permission slip anymore. And if you know someone who's been explaining their life instead of building it, send them this episode. Because sometimes they just need someone to hand them the playbook before they realize that they have been playing the wrong game. Standards over feelings. Ownership creates momentum. Freedom isn't found, it's built. And I will catch you on the next one.